Welcome to episode 2 of Yet to Be Named, the now officially named Yet to Be Named Gold Preshow. Before we begin, a few housekeepings. This is week 2 of Zero Gravity Gaming's Gold League. In order to be eligible to play today, you need 100 ranked solo duo games. You need 125 in week 5 in order to be eligible, and you need 150 for playoffs. Yes, this is happening every episode. Yes, people are still going to be surprised in week 5. Anyway, we have with us today our fantastic guests, so I don't have to pay attention to everything. We've got somewhere, I think up at the top here, we've got Red Panda 0129. And below him, we have Statsman Extraordinaire, Swifty.
Hey, guys.
Hopefully, assuming nobody gets hit by a car, as is statistically likely, given that they're interacting with me on a ZGG game day.
I already got hit by a car last week, man. It's okay.
Oh, good.
Wow.
You avoided it slightly, but on average, it happens at least once a year that somebody involved in ZGG with me gets hit by a car. 2 years ago, it was Velos.
Well,
What?
I was involved with you before the car accident, so it won't be me.
Okay.
Unless God strikes me down again.
So, what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be kind of coming up with a universal, quote-unquote, official ZGG power ranking for both gold divisions. We don't have the people necessarily interested in doing written content. Power rankings are popular. And this way, if people aren't writing, it forces you to watch the picture of my face. Given that we at least one of us has games, and we're going to be talking about that a little later, we ready to get started?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you guys are.
So I believe this is Division 1 that we're looking at here with Corvus
This is Gold
Storm
Division 1.
and Imperial Gaming. This is Paradox, right?
That is Imperial Gaming. Imperial Paradox is Gold 2 Division.
Okay. I mean, when you have so many similar logos,
Yeah.
it's difficult to remember which one thing goes where.
Yep.
So, given that I am somewhat unprepared, and I'll be honest about that, what team do we have in your head, Mr. Swifty, as rank 10?
In my opinion.
In your opinion?
In my opinion, coming in at rank 10, and I think, I'll preface this by saying, I think a lot of the rankings outside of the top few, the top tier teams, if you will, are going to be very fluid throughout the season. I don't think it's a huge disparity in that respect, but I will say I think it's Corvus Storm coming in at number 10. I wasn't particularly impressed by their first series. Going through the numbers, I think there were some gaping issues in gameplay from various members of the team in various aspects, and I think they might have the most room to improve to really, if they want to prove us wrong. So
if we use a metaphor that we talked about on Silver Scraps here, I don't think we talked about it here, right? Of the current floor versus the ceiling, right? They have a hypothetically very, very high ceiling, but I think that just unfortunately they have the lowest floor.
I would agree. I would definitely agree.
So it's where they are now is definitely not there, but it's not to say that they can't get there, right? People have gone from silver to high gold in this amount of time. People have gone from high gold to low diamond in this amount of time that this entire league takes place in, right? Like, these players definitely can get better, and they definitely can improve, and they definitely can come together. But I don't think that there's really a candidate here for rank 10, in my mind, outside of Corvus Storm. Do you have anything? Any alternatives that you want to throw at
Red Panda?
Mr. Red Panda?
No, I'm just looking at this, some KDAs that he gave me. I'm seeing that the bot lane has a good KDA, but, bot lane doesn't matter. I'm going with top most important role in the game. And I think that maybe he might want to look better next week. I think that he definitely can. But definitely bot jungle is one of their strong suits right now in the last 2 games that they played. So if they can refine their team around that, I think they could be a lot better. But I don't mind the placing of them right now. I agree that they, have a better ceiling than what they probably displayed. But
yeah, I will say that it is important to note, and for everyone watching, that you guys know I'm a big stats guy at this point. I haven't shut up about it for the last 2 weeks. Stats, Koopa, sorry, has seen me explain. They're numbers, and that's all they are. I think without context, you can't really take a deep dive and get a full grasp of the picture. But to Red Panda's point, I think having particularly poor, statistical showing on top of playing a team like Roar week 1, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was Roar, right?
It was Roar, and they did
It
take
was
a game.
Roar.
They did take a game.
They did take a game, but I also think that Roar may not be a top-tier team, and I think, when you look at the damage share, 40% of this team's damage near it is coming out of a single player, and that is Lo-Fi Cheese Mix in the bot lane. I think when you have a damage disparity that large, you will run into problems, you will be exposed for it, because a chain's only as strong as its weakest link. And it's a team game, when your other areas of the map are underperforming, people are going to find out how to punish you pretty quickly. And, I think, like you said, this team has room to grow, for sure, but they have a lot of slack to pick up in other areas of the map.
That makes perfect sense to me. And I believe that moves us up to number 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
are we doing the same order every time, or you go for it?
I'm gonna go for it. You go for it here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna say something that people might not necessarily agree with. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I apologize to people ahead of time. Right, no hard feelings, but I'm going to put here, partially for the sake of starting conversation, I'm going to say TD Harmony.
TD Harmony. Interesting.
really,
I would have said I have them much higher. I guess I'll say it now. I think, I sort of said it before, I think that a lot of the teams, genuinely speaking, from my about 8th ranking to my 4th ranking maybe, I think are close.
It's absolutely impossible to make any kind of cohesive ranking that makes any kind of super makes sense and you can get most people on board until week 3 at the earliest. I would usually say week 4 or 5 before you can get a cohesive ranking.
For sure. Hit me up with some reasons why you think TD Harmony as well.
Thing, and I know this is going to be bizarre that I'm ranking them below the team that they beat. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where I am of from the perspective that TD Harmony beat Monkeys Rising 2-1 last week, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here, I haven't done a terribly deep dive, right? I've played against a lot of the Monkeys Rising players last split in IBS, right? So I would basically sum it up as a TD Harmony underperformance and a Monkeys Rising over or average performance, if that makes sense, right? If one roster is performing as expected and the other one is dropping games unexpectedly.
Are you arguing TD Harmony is dropping games unexpectedly?
That's my
opinion. Okay. Yeah. So you thought it should have been a 2-0 for Monkeys Rising?
Correct. That
okay.
A 2-0 for TD Harmony. I think TD Harmony's better than this.
To be fair, a lot of the players in Gold 1 I am not personally familiar with. I've seen play in other leagues. So, it could entirely be that, my take on the strength of these guys is a little bit not as well founded as someone like you, who I'm sure knows a lot of these players more thoroughly than I do. To me, 9 is still a little shockingly low. I understand the argument for who is better between that matchup, right? If you think I'm just trying to think about it.
So then let me ask you this, right? So you clearly disagree with my placement of TD Harmony here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie. It's a bit irrational. It's a bit out on the wall here, right?
Okay.
Who would you put number 9 instead?
Okay. I was worried about having to express this opinion because these are people that I know personally and very well, and that I care a lot about, and I consider friends. And they belong to the same organization that I belong to. My 9th place team is actually Pot of Dolphins in their current state, is what I'm gonna say with that.
Okay.
I think that having scrimmed that team multiple times, I think that they have a lot to work on. I think they have people in unfamiliar roles. Obviously, Moby swapped from support, which, everyone knows him as a support player.
Right.
He's very analytical, very macro-oriented, and I think he's very, very talented in that respect. I think mid's a bit of new territory for him, and in the scrims, you could see that it's new territory for him. Not that saying that he performed horribly. I think he held his own very well, especially into a laner like Lieutenant Orange Juice, who, in my opinion, is top-tier mid laner. He very much so held his own, but I think that they have a lot to sort of figure out before they can really get their footing. I think maybe later on in the season, I think they won't be 9th, for sure. But for current power rankings, I think that they've got enough work and enough footing to kind of settle down that right now I think they're going to have a bit of a hard time.
No, I can really get behind this, particularly from my own experience of swapping from support and being in that kind of like I am the one driving traffic role to a solo lane. It gets very, very difficult to do the same thing when you have so much more to worry about.
Yeah, adopting a whole new champ pool, understanding wave management on your own. And wave management is obviously different from a plethora of reasons from bot. Firstly, being it's a solo lane, right? So it's all on you. Secondly, being the physical distance between Nexus spawn and mid is shorter than Nexus spawn and bot. Bot is a longer lane.
Yep.
Minions come quicker from Nexus to mid, so your timing's different. Your pools are different. I think he is innately a leader. I've heard him in comms. His comms are awesome. But it's a different style of leading, and I think it's going to be a little bit of time for him to really, find his sort of niche as a mid laner. But
any particular thoughts to break this tie, Mr. Red Panda?
Can't see, because I'm not going to take too much of a hot take. My last hot take blew up Twitch chat a little bit, but I can't see TD Harmony that low. I can agree with the Pot of Dolphins one. I don't have any ties to these players, even though they had subs in. I mean, just based off of looking at it, basically statistically, which is all I have from not players, they were the only team that, got O2'd, right? They were going up against Clownfish, and they're a really good team. But I just can't agree with the TD Shadow one.
Harmony?
Especially, TD Harmony.
Yeah.
I just can't agree. I'm thinking of my division. I just can't agree with that one. I think that if we're going to bring it up like management-wise with Toxin always puts together good teams, right? Like, I don't see how we could throw them that low.
And that's completely fair. I will gladly concede to both of you. So, Mr. Red Panda, who would you feel is in 8th place?
In 8th place? That's hard for me. I might have to go with Oasis Fire. Like I said, I don't have too much knowledge on a lot of these teams, because I haven't played with any of them or played against most of them. But I'm trying to pull up the team again, because I had them. There they are. But
yeah, I used a little fire emoji. I hope that's okay, Oasis.
No, I just moved away from it for some reason. But they were also using a sub, but I think they showed a lot of well-roundedness. That we were bringing up a point of having too much damage disparity among one person. I feel like they didn't really have that problem, but then again, I don't think that they looked as hot as they could. So I think that they have a lot of room to grow, and 8th place is not really that bad, right? Like
I think particularly in this division, when, in my opinion, 8th through like 4th are the difference is it doesn't seem like 8th through 4th. It seems like a 5-6 difference. It's very close.
I think that, yeah, I definitely agree that, especially for week 1, right? Like, there's not a lot you can just gain off of one game.
This is so true, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, anywhere between 8th and 4th is subject to change at almost any point. I mean, the first place team could drop down to 5th by late in the season. So, I really wouldn't take it too harsh putting any team in 8th through 5th, to be honest.
See, I have a hard time, and this is the luxury that I have, right? Is that I've watched a lot of these players for seasons, right? So I am more aware of the who's who here, right? So it's really, really hard for me, just given the players involved, to put Monkeys Rising above Oasis Fire.
I agree with Leper there. I agree.
Performance aside, like even that's half the argument that I'm making, right? Is just like assuming equal stats, assuming equal performance, right? Which there's an argument to be made about whether or not that is true, right? It's hard for me to put shoot, my brain dead. It's hard for me to put BTS Jungkook, aka Rocker, as a higher jungler, right, than RZ Strike, right? It's just hard for me to do. So I would be putting Monkeys Rising in 8th place.
Yeah, I can agree with that at least. Like I said, anywhere between 8th to 5th is just like
it's
so much interchangeability, right?
Interchangeability. So, I will agree with Leper though that I do think that Oasis right now has a bit of an advantage over Monkeys Rising. And then again, these are two teams that I personally again don't know a heck of a lot about, but from all I've been able to gather, which is looking at week 1 games and what people have told me about various players and teams. To me, right now, it looks like Oasis has a bit of advantage over Monkeys Rising. So, to me, it would be Monkeys Rising and then Oasis Fire above them.
That's exactly where I would place them. I would put Oasis Fire directly above Monkeys Rising in the 7th spot.
Alright. Shall we move up?
So
Slowly?
if we could agree with this, that brings us to number 6.
That brings us to number 6. Oh, technically 5.
Yeah, I can agree with Oasis.
Because we only have 5 teams left, right? Oh, we have.
Well,
TD
we haven't moved.
we
haven't moved TD Harmony. We've kept them in 9th for some reason.
Well, because I can't take them off.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't want
we'll get back.
I don't want anybody to read into like me putting them
got
at
it.
1.
Okay, yeah, we can get back to them. So
yeah, we're going to come back to TD Harmony. You can't have 2 people in the same position.
Okay. I want to kick this one off because I actually think that there is still one team that should be below Monkeys and Oasis. And I think it's Roar. Looking through the number, when I was doing the stats, I spent like 6 days looking at numbers, and the most interesting to me was this Roar game. Because you can tell by the numbers that it was like a bit of a fiesta. And I think if Roar's playing a team like Corvus Storm, who I think has the most room to grow as a team, and they're putting up a game like that, and it's not a 2-0, I think it spells out more danger than for teams like Monkeys Rising or Oasis Fire.
See, I guess,
but that is just my opinion.
I'm following where you're going here. I'm following you, right? Where, essentially, to boil it down, like, you have a team that is losing, or not losing, but, like, dropping games to quality opponents.
Yes, and for the same reason that I think Corvus Storm has a lot of room to grow, right? You're looking at Lo-Fi Cheese Mix with a 40% damage share in the bot role, which is a massive disparity. It's not as high, but it's still 32% out of Poopsock Bossman, a name that I am going to love saying over the coming weeks. But 32% of the damage coming out of Roar is Poopsock Bossman. You're looking at 18 up top, 17 in the jungle, 22 mid, 9% in the support role. Obviously, support will not be dealing as much damage, particularly if you're on like a utility support, a tank, you know, and something that isn't like a Brand or a Lux or a Swain or whatever. Still, I do think it is a little bit low for support, even for support being a supportive role. To me, it was Corvus and then Roar, going from bottom up, simply because Roar barely won the series and barely had the same problems that Corvus did, if that is an elegant way of putting that.
Given that I hadn't looked at the stats, right, and I wasn't looking as deeply into that game, like, I'm 100% on board with this.
Panda, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to put a little bit more of a positive spin on what you're saying about the bot lane having a lot of that damage share. You got to keep in mind their support also had the most kill participation as well. So their support, if their support's as good as he is what the statistics are showing me right now, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever that their ADC did that much damage.
This is true.
You know, I mean, it is a attack damage carry, but
yeah, for sure.
I made a meme about ADC. I am an ADC player, but from what when I do well as an ADC, it's because of the fact that my support will put me in a good position, and my support will. It seems like he was doing. I didn't get to watch the game, but with how much KP he has, he was roaming well, which gives the ADC if put in a good position, solo XP, all that different kind of stuff. So I can still put them at a place that you guys are telling me. I just think that there is a little bit more of a positive spin. I would put them 6th. I would not put them under Oasis.
Fair.
But
Fair point.
Yeah,
I can concede to that.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's something that a lot of people don't keep in mind is the KP of the support compared to the damage of the ADC. Yeah,
I think it's important. Also, to your point, top lane having normally roughly it's like 20 to 22.5% between your bot through top, obviously depending on your win conditions as a team, for damage share. Top lane played Ornn and Malphite. Obviously, Ornn and Malphite, unless you're Malphite in that, I believe it was the second Killer Whales game, had like the most damage on the team, Yaden. It was kind of crazy. But in most cases, Ornn and Malphite will not be doing as much damage as, you know, an AD carry or,
Jinx or
Tiger mid. Yeah, exactly.
And those are really good champions to like peel your ADC, right? So it seems like they're just putting their ADC in a really good position to play, which is a very optimal way to play. You know,
I will concede. Leper, do you?
I will get on board with this. I will get on board with this. It's hard for me to look at RAR, which is arguably one of the most stacked rosters as far as like players, even if they're unknown quantities, right? And putting them that low.
I think it's good that they found an identity this early if they stick with it. And it seems like if they're top laner, you know, not a lot of top laners like to be put on Ornn duty, but it seems like if he's willing to do it, it might just work out for him pretty well.
I think if they're going to prove me wrong and prove you right, though, they have to clean up a bit, because if they keep doing that against a team like Corvus Storm, I don't think they'll be 6th. But, you know, it sounds like, you know, they have the means and methods of cleaning up those and playing to their win cons, you know, and, you know, if their win con is win through bot, then you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, it also seems like, you know, might be able to clean up support jungle. Jungle doesn't have anywhere near the amount of KP as top and bot do, and if you're getting that bot laner so far ahead, you should definitely be helping out your jungler as a support.
So we're going to do something that doesn't make sense. There's not going to be any argument because Athena's in the chat. TD Harmony's 5. That's the end of it.
Sure.
Moving on to number 4.
Moving on to number 4.
Why not?
Why not? It's about where I had them anyway. So. Can I kick this one off?
Absolutely. The only other, honestly, this is my actual argument right here, and this is
for TD Harmony
to anybody at all intended, right? Right. It's I have to, even though TD1 and Goon Squad Gaming Sigma, please use the gaming. That Decker guy gets very, very OCD about the term Goon Squad Sigma. Please use either GSG Sigma or Goon Squad Gaming Sigma.
Understood.
Or just Sigma.
Okay. And Sigma is Division 1, Gamma is Division 2.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, just so I didn't screw that up.
So, and this just comes from duration of rosters, right? TD Harmony is a roster that literally came together after the ZGG sign-up sheet went out, right? Versus Sigma, where Sigma has been together in this lineup with these players in this configuration for literally over one full calendar year. And that's all I'm basing it on, right? Like, if it wasn't that circumstance, I would have to put TD Harmony above Sigma. But given the circumstance, given what the weeks, given how highly I feel about Agni Kai, I would put Sigma 4th here over Harmony at 5.
Okay. Or is your argument Sigma 4th?
My argument is Sigma 4th. Yeah. Yes.
I agree. I think they gave us reasons to put them lower. This past week, their goal difference in 15 minutes was sub 3,000 in the negative, which is a big issue. I understand that these are veteran players; they've played a lot together, so I think it was a fluke. But yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, I agree.
And this is the thing. This is going to be potentially dramatically changing 7 days from now, right?
Yes. I'm sure
we literally
most
have
stuff I'm saying is going to be wrong.
2 games to work off of.
Yeah.
There's gonna be again, no offense to anybody intended, I feel less strongly about where I put Sigma than a lot of other people, and it's like more Sigma just is going forth because of that. Like, if we feel really strongly, I'm happy to put TD Harmony above Sigma. Do not get me wrong, like, I'm not super committed on it. But if you agree...
Do you agree with Sigma 4th?
Yeah, I remember us talking about Sigma with the whole... It was the first one with the whole they're keeping a roster that they had last season. And I definitely see how they could be swapped with TD Harmony. But I can agree with 4th. I'm not trying to be on a huge TD Harmony train here. I just think that based off history of who's running it, they could be
that they will be higher, more likely.
That they could be higher.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say would be.
We'll have to find out.
There's always a narrative with teams like that.
All right, should we take it to 3?
Yeah, you haven't done one in a while. Who's 3?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
3, for me, Agni Kai. I think this team had a great showing week 1. I think they are of the better teams in this division. I do think that their strongest players and their weakest players aren't as strong and are a little weaker than the 2 teams ahead of them. I think they're a team that looks good. I've played against a few of the players before. Maybe I'd put them as high as 3rd just because, I knew them a little bit better than some of the other teams. But yeah, to me, a big thing for why they're 3rd is when you look at the other 2 teams, I think there's a lot more reasons to put the other 2 teams ahead of them. So 3rd it is for me.
No, I can definitely get behind Agni Kai on at 3. I think there's a case to put them above Clownfish 9.
Interesting.
More due to quality of opponents than anything else, right?
Based off of week 1?
Based off of week 1. However, I can get behind Agni Kai in 3rd and Clownfish 2nd because Clownfish was the only team to win 2-0.
Panda?
But you're gonna have to do something really
I'm letting
really
him
hard to get me off of Imperial number 1.
Okay.
Sorry, my phone distracted. But yeah, I can definitely agree because we've been talking about, at least he's been talking about the damage share, and they really are very well rounded between
Yeah, it looks like a
top,
well-rounded
mid,
team.
jungle, top. So that.
Yeah, that's what I meant
That
when I
could
was
be-
saying that before.
yeah.
That's what a more standard distribution would look like when you're looking at kill participation. It looks more like a team that is playing to more meta sort of win conditions than the other teams.
Yeah, because you can carry through almost any role between those right now, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a really good sign is that when they are able to trust every player to be able
Yeah.
to be in those positions.
And having options is a huge strength,
Yeah.
If your one win con is one lane, I think that's a weakness. I don't think that's a strength. Some people
Yeah.
say, like, oh, we have this player, he's going to win every single bot lane. If you face a good team that knows how to shut down one lane, your win condition is now out of your fingers. So,
Yeah.
I think Agni Kai's showing, like you said, they can trust each other to play the game and to, carry. I think it's a good sign.
Yeah. I think that, to that point too, it is a weak point whenever you have to do something like that. But it's just you also have to learn how to dig yourself out of that hole for that win condition.
Yeah.
And that's still an option. Like we've seen it with multiple even pro teams do stuff like that and still make it fairly far. Not to talk too much about pro teams, but it's only correlation I can make. But yeah, I can definitely agree with putting them at third.
So
They definitely look like a top 3 team to me.
So Leper, then,
Yes.
you're saying Clownfish 2, Imperial 1.
That is correct what I'm saying. I will say just on the Agni Kai
For
After
2-1,
this?
not 1-2.
Clownfish at number 2.
Well,
Imperial at
yeah.
number
number
1.
2. On the Agni Kai subject, as far as
Did we lose Leper?
Oh shoot! I have
Oh.
a lot of background noise going on, so
I'm sorry.
I put on a push to talk key, and so I'm sitting here talking like, why aren't these people answering me? What's going on, right? No. On the Agni Kai subject for just a brief moment, I think that specifically for Mello, this might be the freest he's been able to play in a lot of splits, and probably one of the more chill atmospheres. So like, I'm really excited to see where Agni Kai develop over the split. That was all that. But yes, I'm saying Clownfish 9 is number 2, and Imperial Gaming is number 1.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Why are you going to disagree with me?
I have to agree with
These are two teams that I actually do know. These are the two best teams that I know in the league. I think... Do I know if I'm right? Maybe not. And it's entirely possible that Imperial... It's probably more than likely that Imperial, I think, will end up first. I think currently where they're at, Actual Bird's playing top lane. We have recently scrimmed this team. I'm not going to reveal a lot about the scrim. But Bird couldn't make the games. He came in game 3, and there was an issue with someone on their team having to leave, so it got complicated. But so it didn't feel like a real game that we actually got to play against Bird. He is a cracked, out of his mind player. I think he is the most well-rounded league player in this league. I think he has the most at his disposal, the most he can pull out of the bag. I think he's an unbelievably talented player. However, I do think top's a little bit of new territory for him. I still think he'll be one of the best tops in the league. But I think that people are severely underrating how good a Lazy Bush is, how good Levy is, how good Namid is. I think they have 3 incredibly viable carry options, and I don't think it's that way on real. Mm-hmm.
If I said that part of the reason that I have Clownfish 9 at number 2 right now is because Fatty's not going to be here this week, could you get behind this argument?
Sure. I could.
Because that's part of it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't want to waste a ton of time, not arguing. We're not arguing.
We've got time. We've got time. We've
got a bit of time.
Through this in 35 minutes. Like, that's not bad time.
If we put Clownfish 2 and Imperial 1, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with it. I think I might be just in the minority in thinking that Clownfish might be the better team right now. You are right. Hamid's not playing.
I will say, like, I'm inclined to believe you, right? And I'm inclined to go your way because you are the only one of us with direct first-hand experience with these players, right? I just have part of the reason that I am putting Imperial number 1 is I have seen these players play and be top tier for a very, very long time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Bird was top lane last split. One of the most feared, considered one of the top laners in.
He can play anything, and I'd be probably soiling my pants when I won the draft.
They also are a square peg for a round hole, right? They're going to be themselves no matter what.
This is true. Bird will be an insane player anywhere on the map, and
it's always really, really hard for me to look at a team that has Azure Knight and Rin, and just put them. And I'm about to say and put them low, in the beginning, but I'll give it to you because Clownfish 9 had a 2-0 and Imperial Gaming didn't.
You don't have to give it to me, by the way. I'm just expressing my
opinion. Who are you saying isn't going to show up on Clownfish?
Namid the Bean. Hashtag your boy Fatty.
But also,
the only rebuttal I have with that point is like we're ranking teams based off of how good we'll think they'll be, right? Like as of this point, like if he misses one game, that doesn't take away from how good the team is, right? Like. That just takes away from how good they're just going to be this week.
But it's also a semantic argument. We don't have all the time in the world, so
yeah.
Heather's just hopping in for 1 minute here.
Okay.
My thought off of all of this is quite frankly, Clownfish 9 has the highest potential. Imperial Gaming has been established for a long, long time. You know exactly what you're going to get on any given series. They're a nearly impossible team to bet against in any given series. I think Clownfish 9 is incredibly good. I think they absolutely deserve to be up here. But when it comes to it, if you're looking again at a best of 5 or even a best, I think Clownfish 9 can easily win a best of 3 versus Imperial Gaming. But I think in general, Imperial Gaming has such a low floor in regards to stuff that it keeps them strong week in, week out. You don't ever commit to
a high floor, right?
Yeah, high floor. Like they've got such a high skill floor that you are not going to have a fun week whenever you're facing them.
Yeah, you're not going to get a weak IG, regardless of who you're playing.
And that's the same case in the playoffs. And that's the same case in the playoffs. If we're looking again in the playoffs, if there's one team out of all of these that you know for a fact across the board, like, hey, looking at this week one, who's somebody we definitely, no matter what, 9 weeks from now don't want to face, I think it's Imperial Gaming.
Yeah, that was close to my argument for TD Harmony. But I get that one's just a little bit more exaggerated because obviously Toxin hasn't been in Gold Leagues. He's worked with monkeys. He hasn't worked just on his own.
The one thing about TD Harmony, having played with the TD organization and having seen them around for the last 3 weeks or even the last couple months, is you are not aware as to the 5 people who are going to be there physically present in the lobby by the time the game starts. That
100%
can easily change.
Agree.
And that can easily change in 2 months. They can have a very stable, very strong roster. Again, Chance Sarathina's in VC right now. He's an incredibly capable jungler. He can win a series almost on his own. That being said, with TD, you see the highest potential that they can reach. But if the organization is going to be what's going to hold them back, and just simply getting the necessary pieces in place, that's what's going to trip them up more than what the talent is present on the roster.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just didn't think I should have talked about that on the stream, but since you brought it up, yes, I 100% agree with that we just don't know what the roster is going to be week to week. If it's ran the same way that it was when he ran Monkeys in training. That was my big thing even before the stream started I was talking about.
So, did Feathers
Hi.
Did Feathers put it together? Is it IG1 Clownfish 2? Is that
I
what we're
think
saying?
so. I mean, if it's serious
think
enough
so?
for Feathers to hop in here, we have to give
If
it.
it's serious enough for Feathers to hop in here, I will stand aside.
I think Clownfish 9 again is 100%. I think it's 1A 1B right now, but the only thing that swings it for me is coming into this a couple weeks later. I would not want to see, I'd be supremely worried about having to face off against IG in a playoff series right now. That's the only determinant. That's all.
Sounds like that's it.
Sounds like that's
Yep,
got
it was
we've got
a
our
Feathers
ready.
diff. It was just
It was
a
a
Feathers
Feathers
diff.
Yeah.
Post it, Feathers, right there. That's your Feathers approved tier list.
Thank you, Feathers. We're gonna hop right into Gold 2.
We are going to hop right into Gold 2.
Great.
I'm also sticking around here just to make sure that some things don't happen in Division 2. I'm laying down some law here.
Oh, okay.
We're laying down some-
Okay, so Comfy Cartel is number 10. Moving on to number 9.
Who's going first?
Who's going first?
Okay, I'll go first.
I'm gonna say
Number
less
10.
this time. So.
Is Ugly Gang, Ugly Gang, Ugly Gang.
I'm going with Killer Whales, number 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you have a team that did win 2-0 so low.
Yeah.
And are you trolling me?
Dude, I've seen
He's
their
my
jungler. I've had some conversations with him. I don't think his understanding of the game is just a little different than I feel like it should be.
Fair.
No, they're not ninth. They're
Um,
not ninth.
should we talk about Ugly Gang 10?
We should talk about Ugly Gang 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, who wants to lead off?
Okay. No disrespect to anybody on Ugly Gang. Your roster literally came together like 2 hours before we closed signups because you were the 20th team.
I think the roster just came together for this week as well.
Yeah, no, that's literally what I mean. Like they literally.
Oh, I thought you meant like
this literally was a team that was made on the very, very last day that we had signups open, and they are the fact that Ugly Gang applied is the reason that we have 20 teams.
Yeah, I really don't have a lot more to say. I think this team has the most room to grow. I know I have expressed this to Leper. I think this team could get better. I don't see this team passing anywhere above 8, 7, if I'm being entirely honest. But I think they could shut a lot of people up by saying that they're not going to take a game. I think Borbor has an incredibly high ceiling. I will stand by that. I will live by that, die on that hill. I think he's held back a lot by just some positional awareness and some, just some tiny AD carry sort of gameplay things. I think with an adjustment to that and a bit of just how he views the role and, how he goes in mentally to each series, I think it's entirely possible, and I think it's more than likely probable that they'll take a few games off of people and, be able to shut a few mouths up. But I still do believe that they have the biggest gaps by a lot, which is why 10.
So for me, in number 9, I have Nameless Predators.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that.
I think for
feel
similar
like-
reasons to UG, I think,
Right. It's similar
Yeah.
things, like, not...
I feel
not
like they
in all-
also do live and die by what I'm seeing right now by the bot lane. Not so much in damage wise, but just like they definitely had the highest like KP. They were definitely the people leading around the map. I mean, I could be wrong.
This is also, you have to
So-
understand that they have 9.5 kills per game. So it's not easy to hit it's not hard to hit 70% kill participation when you're only killing 9 people a game.
It's also...
It's just an ADC gap, dude, I'm telling you.
It's hard for me when you're struggling against BDE Sapphire, right? A team that I don't rate particularly highly.
We may disagree when we get to that.
We may disagree, right? But yeah.
I think the one case about both of these teams is that we haven't seen enough identity-wise about them having a win condition at this point in the season. And you can't look you don't look at these teams and go, okay, this is somebody we absolutely need to shut the door on. That's going to come up. And for both these teams, again, this could be a developmental split. I think they're both going to take games. I think they get dismissed a little bit because people look at their current ranks.
They look at MMR, and then they just jump to a conclusion, yeah.
But so I don't think necessarily that they, like, do they belong down here? I think so. But I think as well, with that much additional amount to grow, these are the seeds are there, and eventually they will come. Just we haven't seen it yet. And again, until you start seeing, sprouts coming up in the garden, you're not sure again if there's actually stuff growing there yet.
Everyone knows the story of the ugly duckling, pun intended, because ugly gang.
The example of this is like we've had people in low bronze win IBS. Like we've had people in. Feathers? Do you remember? Was Attila silver when he won gold?
He was in high silver, I believe. And again, we've also had previous splits where Serm was a substantial contributor on teams, who was also high silver, like low gold, and was in the gold finals. But I think just right now, until we start seeing what their identity is, you have to have them down here as a waiting game.
Borbor was on the Killer Whales roster that went to take Fishbowl. He was in silver at the time. So
my only take from this is that golds are just silvers that got lucky right now.
It's shiny gold.
Golds are just a bunch of silvers that got lucky.
Flat as shiny gold. Yeah.
It's like the only thing I'm hearing right now. But then again, silvers are just bronzes that got lucky. So
Yeah, you could say that about anything.
Yeah.
So this is where I have a hard time, right? As far as 8th place, because I could make a case for Hyperion, Goon Squad Gamma, or Comfy Cartel here.
Okay, I need to launch into this because I think Division 2 is a division filled with tiers, and the middle part of this tier, even more so than Division 1, is who knows in regards to stuff. Division 1 is you're not sure in lobby who's going to show up for some of these teams, and that can make 8 to 5 really, really difficult. With this one, again, the question is that we've got more stable teams, but how much, again, when they're going up against each other, are they going to take a couple of those games? Is it going to get split? Is it going to get split off between them? Is there going to be one that gets wins against the right teams at the right time? That's like that kind of group that we're talking about here. It's all very difficult from about 8 to 4 in my eyes. 8 to 5. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's certainly a tale of it's going to be fluidity. When we see how those mid-tier sort of teams will shake out. I think regardless of how we place 8 through 4, I'm not entirely sure how I'd place everyone, but the middle of the pack teams are, I think, going to be moving rather frequently week to week.
It'll be the big story that I'm interested in is to see if this division is in 4 tiers or in 3.
Yep.
So who would you say, Leper, for number 8 here?
It's hard. Like if I'm being serious, I would probably put GSG Gamma at 8. And then
I would believe that's what I had as well.
And then I'd put Comfy Cartel at 7. Hyperion at no. It's hard because I'm sorry, New Wave just kinda I'm not okay with the New Wave win the way that it went down.
Their one win against Comfy?
Yeah. I'm not.
I mean,
I'm okay with the way the win went down, and I'm sure Feathers can speak to this much more than I can. He played in the game, but to me, what speaks more volumes isn't about them having like a poor win. I think they had a good win. I think that their losses in the other games spoke a lot about that this team has a lot of cleaning to do on their macro decision making, on their understanding of their own team's win compositions, and playing to their draft. They got first blood every game, first tower every game. They were up an exorbitant amount of gold, like an insane amount of gold every single game, to a point that Comfy should not have been able to take any games, yet they did. And I think, to me, that's why New Wave is a little lower on these middle of the pack teams. But
So would you say then Gamma 8, New Wave 7?
I should have prefaced this. I still think New Wave's better than Comfy. No offense, Feathers.
Yeah, no. And I'll be happy to speak to that when we get to New Wave. Because for me, New Wave is everything for defining where the tiers in this entire division exist. Like they're the ones that at the end of it, we're going to look back and go, okay, this is either we've sold them, a little short, or alternatively, like it's the exact same thing with Goon Squad Gaming Sigma. Just again, shout out to you, Decker, there for pronounce it the entire way. Goon Squad Gaming in week 1, over in the first division. This was a team that was extremely solid. They stumbled in week 1. The question is this an harbinger of things to come or not? In the case of New Wave again, they had leads all across the board. They are a team that right now is going to be extremely difficult to place. They go up against Paradox this week, and could potentially be 0-2. Do I think they're an 0-2 team based off of what I saw game 1? Absolutely not. They have the ability to absolutely, run the table and be a top team. They have the potential very easily to be the, in the top 4 in that top echelon of teams in here, but they're kind of macro knowledge. We took a great deal of objectives that we probably didn't deserve, and we were playing free and loose. That made it again a little bit more. New Wave again just simply quite honestly had a bad week, and every team has that stumble. It's unfortunate that it happened in week 1 because we're sitting here questioning them when I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And I worry that after week 2, after they face Paradox, if they lose that, people will be going, well, are they the 8th place team here? I don't think
they will. I think people understand that Paradox is a good team. I also think that those two teams are very close. They're good friends.
Yeah,
Righteous and TJ do those together. I don't think it'll be a mental boom game for them. If anyone looks at them and says, this is an 8th place team after losing to a team like Paradox, you're not looking at the full picture here, I think.
I agree.
I'm just saying that to those people if they may be thinking that in the chat.
The one thing about Gamma, because again, it looks like we slotted Gamma 8, is that Gamma has a pretty stable foundation. Shangu and Foxy are really quite solid players. I
think Shangu's really good.
Yeah, I think he's actually one of the more. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league regards to people looking by him. I think the easiest way for us to have Gamma as 8 is they just replaced their top laner, and this was a team that had is still going to kind of continue to work through their synergy a little bit. So we can have them a little bit lower to go, okay, let's start seeing this. They've already replaced a player in their starting rotation already. How is it going to work out? So,
yeah, I agree. I think this team could make way higher, for sure. I think that they've set themselves up with a roster and with players that they can move up, for sure.
I think in the context of the teams that people are going to place around them here in 7th and 6th, you are always going to get a good game out of Goon Squad Gaming Gamma. They're going to have that consistent effort. The question is how high of a ceiling that can they get in regards to this? They just simply won't be an easy game no matter how you go about it, I don't think.
Anyone else, anything to say?
I have nothing to add here.
I just sat back down, so...
So number 7, Red Panda, you sat back down. Who do you think sits at 7?
Number 7. Let me make sure I got all these teams correctly.
I see Leopard move. I saw the mouse move.
Did he grab BDE? Is that...
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I didn't grab anybody. But
I saw that. Anyway.
God, this is hard.
It is hard.
'Cause,
That's
like-
a lot of what we were talking about. It's like 8 through 4 is really, really difficult.
Yeah, there's so many arguments you can go with. I'm gonna go with. Let me see who they played to make sure. You know what? I'll go with New Wave, maybe.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
okay.
defend New Wave here.
We will defend New Wave here.
We will defend New Wave.
I'm
They lost
I'm
one-
just
they
throwing
lost
out
1-2.
something. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
threw
they
out
lost
TD Harmony. I'm
1-2
just
to
gonna throw it out.
CC.
And let's see.
So they lost 1-2 to CC, right? I still think New Wave's
Yeah,
better
they're the
team.
only team that went 2-1. I didn't
That's a fly. Sorry.
notice that one.
I think
I didn't notice that
think
one either.
Just for sake of feathers and not biased reasons, we put Comfy Cartel 7.
I do think Comfy 7.
Like, again, I will sit here and I'll defend in regards to our stuff. We play free and loose, but we're also dealing with a team that, quite frankly, first of all, our jungler is not a typical jungler. Our AD carry is not a typical AD carry. Our support, we asked him randomly, "Hey, do you want to play?" He decided, "Yeah, let's play."
Sure.
This is a team that doesn't scrim. This is a team that, do we have good players and good pieces? Yes, but some of them are juggled around, and this is a team that is playing for fun. Doesn't mean that we can't take games. You saw that.
Of course,
in
yeah,
week-
that's
in-
fine.
in week 1. I just think that the other thing is, and I'll speak to it in regards to honest frankness. This is a team that if one player leaves and another player comes in, can we see this team up in 4th and 5th? Absolutely. Like, again,
I think so too. I think there's talent on this team, individual
Yeah.
talent, I
Yeah.
think you guys are individually skilled, but, when you don't scrim, it's going to be hard. I think
Right.
Imperial's scrimming 5 days a week, you know what I mean? Like, when you have 2 different scrim schedules like that, it's going to be hard to, have the same output and results.
Well, and again, I never go into it too far, but we're probably the most unorthodox team in the sense, I want to play X, I want to play this champion.
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead. Like,
Fuck it. Oh,
we're-
sorry. Screw it.
Well, fine. But that's the
I
thing.
just remember Feathers saying
Leave that out.
before with week 1, yeah, my AD carry decided that they wanted to play Aurelia bot today, and we were like, sure!
Yeah, go for it.
So, but well, we should just lock in Aurelia bot this today. But anyways,
Anywho.
Do it.
I think again, cartel will always float. You can't necessarily count us out, but on the flip side, there are going to be weeks where we would lose 2-0 or 2-1 to a team below, and you go, okay, did we misjudge them? And that's always going to be the case with this team. So.
Yeah.
I think that we did talk a lot about New Wave Esports. I'm going to put New Wave 6.
I agree. I think currently. I think this team probably won't be 6, but I think power rankings currently, and for the same reason I think that Panda was about to say 7, right? But yeah.
And I believe, from my perspective, that puts Hyperion number 5.
Who did I have 5?
And that kind of
I had
again
Hyperion
speaks-
5 as well.
Yeah, and that kind of speaks to it. There's between all of these teams, the 8 through 5, there are players that can elevate and drop this team appropriately. Again, if Kappa Crusader is playing for Hyperion,
He's no longer playing. He's a
Yeah.
sub.
He's
but
a sub,
They have
right.
a new starting top laner. Yeah.
right? But if on any given week Kappa's coming in because someone else is filling, that can easily elevate this. That can elevate or drop them kind of again appropriately because Kappa could technically play anywhere if that's the
And if he happens to be subbed in the jungle, he's going to run over, I think, any other jungler in the league.
a good deal of them, absolutely.
A good deal of them. I think that includes me. He's played against me, and he knows how to beat me. That guy's a really, really talented
He's
jungler.
really, really
Yeah.
good at figuring out another jungler's tendencies.
Yes,
and
which is
changing
frustrating
the
as a
way-
jungler.
And changing the way that he plays accordingly.
Yeah,
right.
He's
And-
malleable. He's multifaceted. Yeah.
And there are champions specifically that he understands how those champions play so well. Like it's very, very. We
Great
could
pool.
talk a lot about that. But given that people have things to go to, I think my opinion here. Now, some of this is based off of recent changes.
Mm-hmm.
But I would put BDE Sapphire 4.
I agree. I think they're an incredibly strong team. I think there might be some people who may overvalue some of their players, and I think there are people who definitely undervalue them as a team, depending upon who you ask. The reason I say 4 and not higher is because while this team is the James Moriarty show, and James Moriarty is an incredibly talented player, I think that's all this team is the James Moriarty show. Like I said before in the stream, if you can cut out the legs from under a team, what keeps them moving, keep them driving, I think they might get exposed. So
and when you have such a narrow win condition as this specific player carrying the game, it's hard. Like it's one of the things that I look at people that will draft like 4 Protect 1 comps, and I will talk about how actually difficult that is to execute, right? Because all the pressure and all the performance is on one particular player performing in order for things to succeed. That one player screws up with, even if everybody else does their jobs appropriately, there really isn't anything that can happen, and that's an issue with things like this.
I think there are 3 outcomes for BDE Sapphire. Number 1, somebody along the way comes in and gives them something that really, really appears as a secondary carry/win con. The other option is that they kind of stay the course as a team, and other teams evolve a little bit more over the course of the split, and we see them dropping down to that kind of 5th or 6th level. Or alternatively, this is also a team that if things go bad, you can sit there and compare them up against the number 8 team on any given week and go, I can see the number 8 team winning the series, or having at least being a slight underdog, but not surprised at the end in regards to the result if BD were to lose a week. So
I agree.
So this is where we're going to fight.
That's for the top 3, is that what you're saying, or for
this is where
BDE
we're
4?
gonna
Okay.
fight. Okay.
Obviously now, like, I'm for sure gonna get flamed in chat if I begin arguing with people about my own team. So
this is it's hard for me, okay, because there's things to be said in many different places, okay. So this is what I propose. IG Paradox number 1, Literal Monkeys 2, Killer Whales 3.
Okay.
Hear the pain
Now you have to
voice when
understand.
you put you there.
Having someone place me in the top 3, I'm not upset about that
towards Killer Whales. Okay, I have I'm unapologetically a K stan, right? Like I just rate K super freaking.
I'm sorry,
high.
I don't know who that is.
Wonderworld. Okay. I came on here for one particular reason, and I've been really trumpeting this in the last couple of days. I really, genuinely, I can understand people going on, okay, well, talent on scrim results and all of that. For me, the fact that people are selling Literal Monkeys short to me was a travesty so much I kind of had to bring it up.
Do you think putting in the top 3 is selling them short?
No, just in general. Like
Okay.
what I've seen in other podcasts and all that. This is a team again that can roll out carries in every single lane, that have the capacity to take over a game. They have Batman, who is formerly the finalist jungler last split. They've got flexible players, no name. In regards to stuff like that, like no name could be mid, no name could be 80 carry in any given week. They have flexible, stable examples, and for them to, for me, cutting the line off at at 3 right now, the top 3, however you go about it, there's a cavern between the top 3 and everyone below right now.
I have to absolutely agree with that.
Like, and we're going to sit here and argue again on how we want to organize these top 3. But I do think that there's a substantial thing that's separating these 3 teams, and other teams will have to rise up to the occasion over the course of the split and have to prove it more than these other 3 teams will have to. Looking at it, it depends on how like Imperial Paradox in my eyes has Trajan, Trucks, and like the bot lane of them is incredibly solid. They have it, as odd as it sounds, the actual meta may affect which of these teams ends up in number 1. They're all relatively close in that regard. If Trucks has been shown, like in any game, you can do a protect the AD carry comp and be successful. Literal Monkeys has the ability to, you will come in going, hey, you know what? We can somewhat match up against these guys, but with Literal Monkeys, you're not coming in going, we can exploit explicitly this player. You can exploit strategies. You could potentially, focus on your own stuff. But Literal Monkeys will never be an easy out with how things are being presented. And in regards to Killer Whales, again, hope as long as Velos remains Taylor's boyfriend, I think they're going to be strong. And the one thing is that again, it can come down to a question. But all these three teams have very capable top laners. I think it's going to be interesting because all 3 of them can tend towards pretty aggressive lane bully style top laners for the most part, which can definitely lend itself to volatility when any one of these 3 teams matches up against one another. I think all 3 of them have. You can throw Moriarty into there and maybe someone else if you're filling it on your own team, but if you're doing top 5, you'd have to list, I would feel, 3 of these top laners in the top 5. So they're no slouches. And all 3 of them show both very capable AD carries. So it's going to come down to, it can sometimes come down to momentum when any of these 3 teams play. And we're going to see it next week where Monkeys plays Paradox. I think that's going to be an incredibly important one for defining where things stand.
I agree. I think once we see these teams play each other is when we're going to have, a true understanding of how this top 3 is going to shake out.
So can I do this? And we all agree?
You can do it. I would love to put my own 2 cents in.
Oh no, please go for it.
I say put it the way you were going to put it, regardless, because I don't think it's fair to have someone who's on a team sway this sort of opinion. But I do think I would be kicking myself in the knee after this if I didn't give you my own 2 cents on it. I don't know Literal Monkeys as well as I know obviously my own team and as well as I know Imperial Paradox. Imperial Paradox ran by Trajan. We know Trajan very well, at least my team from playing them in the Fishbowl playoffs. I personally think that and obviously again I don't know Literal Monkeys as well. From what I've seen, just looking at the numbers and who they were facing, particularly because I saw Literal Monkeys play Ugly Gang week 1, and granted, they've only played 1 game. So once we see them play a team that I think, people are going to want to see that some sort of banger match with 2 really good teams, then I'll obviously be able to say more. I had Literal Monkeys 3, Imperial Paradox 2, and my own team at 1. Flame me in the chat. Hit me up with the flame. I think that my team is an unknown for a lot of people. I think no one's ever seen me besides Fishbowl and play in a league. I don't think anyone's seen OJ play as much as they have Velos. So the big name that comes up, I think, when people think Killer Whales is Velos. And I'm going to say that I think people underestimate how many threats we have on our team and how malleable we are. And I'm going to try and prove you guys wrong as to why I think we're the first place team.
All right.
But But yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna do my best. But
I mean,
you know,
to counter rebuttal that what like the
we
point
totally
of a lot
could
of
be
people.
third though. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. You know.
The point of like people being unknown, like that's such an advantage for a team, right? Like if someone's been playing in these leagues for like 3 years and everybody knows who they are, then they're at a disadvantage from like the person that's just hopping in. So I think that kind of case might sway downwards than upwards, in my opinion, because as people start to figure out the people on your team that aren't as known, then it could show some weaknesses later on whenever they play you guys more. But that goes for any team. It's just because you were talking about.
Yeah, no,
Wells.
for sure.
I'm not specifically picking on your team like I was at the beginning. I just wanted to make the joke at the beginning, but I think you could say that just about anybody that is one of the newer players.
For sure. Yeah. I'm excited to play these other two teams. Is another thing I'm gonna add. I know, obviously, I'm sure a ton of people probably disagree with me. I think we can beat these teams. I think we could do it in a cool fashion. I want to see if I'm right. You know, hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully I'm right. But you know, we'll obviously find out. I'm certainly not going to underestimate these two teams. Seeing the quantity of talent on these other two teams, I think is something that Velos, me, OJ, Yadin, and Rambo are gonna have to prepare for sure, because we've seen Trajan before on a different roster, and he's a very talented player. When I was doing Potato stats and Hide and Shroud stats, also thank you Hide and Shrouds for helping me put together the sheet. You're the best. And just all their players on the whole, it's like you can tell that this is a deep pool of deep talent. So looking forward to it either way.
The one thing, speaking in regards to these three teams, because again, I did have the privilege of scrimming, you guys, and I don't want to, go too far into it, but I will say that, you showed the potential in regards to Killer Whales, but there was also a game where it was definitely not good for you guys. And
I'm sorry. What game are we talking about? Fishbowl, or are we talking about last week?
Last week, like last week's stuff.
Okay.
The third game of the scrim was not something that looked very very
yes,
good.
Yes, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you meant us versus Hyperion, and I was like, I thought that was pretty well done.
In regards to scrim results,
yeah, we are a team that can be beat for sure.
But again, you're also a team that really, you're a very good tempo team, and that's going to be again the type of thing, because having played a game in which there was a game taken off of you, it's going to. The question for me with Killer Whales is what happens after you guys get punched in the mouth. How do you respond? And I didn't get to see that in our scrim, because obviously that was the last little bit.
Without getting too deep into it, I have never had more fun playing on another team. I have never trusted a group of guys more.
No.
I have never been on a team where I don't have to worry about anyone's mental.
No.
So maybe I hope we do get to see that, and maybe we can show you.
It's not a question of mentor or everybody going after one another. What I'm getting at is, again, how do you respond as a team? That's all.
Like,
and it's not
okay. Yeah, that is
not. It's not mental. It's just simply how do you guys respond to adversity in regards to how you alter your stuff. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to
hopefully we can show you later.
We've got about 10 minutes.
We do.
Yeah, Swifty would do really well in politics. I just noticed that.
So
no.
Swifty.
Yes.
We've got 10 matches today.
10 matches.
10 matches. If you could watch one of them, which one would you watch? That isn't yours.
Let me quickly look. It is not mine. This is no offense to Ugly.
I can phrase the question differently, if you would rather. From an analytics perspective, which is the most important match of the 10? For you to be able to determine more about power rankings and how these teams are in relation to each other.
It's gonna be a game one game for me, but yeah, go.
I'm gonna go with Comfy and Monkeys, because we put in the gold 2, because Feathers came in here, was really hyping up Monkeys. We were talking a little bit about Comfy, and we actually put them below, I think, the team that they beat. But I think that will be interesting to see for next week after, Feathers put so much hype in this team. And that's that's one of the big reasons why I would want to watch that one.
So for me, it is 100% Goon Squad Gaming Sigma versus TD Harmony. Because if Athena's coming in, Sigma's coming off of a loss again, and if they're the ones going 0-2 through their first 2 weeks, people are the question is going to be are they going to have the ability to respond? Because there are very few easy weeks for people, and in comparison, I would feel in my heart of hearts that Goon Squad Gaming Sigma would have expected or hoped for in the first 2 weeks to be 2-0. If they're 0-2, that's something that could be a little bit frightening. So that's my read on stuff.
I say Pod versus Corvus. I think we had ended up rating them both the bottom 2 in Gold 1 division. I'm not sure if that was the case. That's at least how I had put them.
That is how we had it. No, I was about to say that one, so I'll have to find one. Okay.
Oh, no, we could agree.
No, go on, go on.
I think that, like I said, Pod is a team that is in unfamiliar territory, right? I think because Corvus is a team that looked, in my opinion, particularly weak at the bottom of Gold 1, I think this could be a wake-up or a go-to-bed call for Pod. I think if this goes poorly against Corvus Storm, I don't know how you recover from that mentally. I hope you do. I'm not saying like you shouldn't recover from that. You should, obviously, but it'll be tough because I think they're a team that should beat Corvus. And I think if they're a team that can stop Corvus, I think it's a huge morale boost. I think these players can be better than 9th for sure. And I think this is the week to start, and this is the week to prove it. And honestly, maybe same goes for Corvus. If I'm underrating Corvus and they want to prove me wrong, step it up, In my opinion, Pod's the team right above you. Go beat Pod then, and prove guys like me wrong.
For me, it's going to be New Wave Esports versus Imperial Paradox. We've talked a lot about how we felt that New Wave really underperformed last week against Comfy Cartel, and we've also done a really, really hyped up Imperial Paradox as well. So I think that given this series, seeing how close or how far apart this is going to tell us a lot about how we can rank these tiers, as these are some of the measuring sticks that we're using. Also, check out Airwave Episode 3, out now. Yeah,
check out New Wave stuff. They've been doing a great job over there.
With that, I think, unfortunately, we're going to have to cut it short. You should check out our 2 streams today. We have, on one of the channels, BDE Sapphire versus Goon Squad Gaming Gamma. You can check out some of my former IBS teammates that have made it to Gold while I'm still in Silver 4. And on the other
stream, I said, golds are just silvers that got lucky. Eventually you'll get lucky.
That's all it is.
I'm still waiting to get lucky.
I'm no better than you, Leper.
We also have on the other stream a matchup
even challengers are iron
has
on the
a
inside.
History over time of RAR versus Imperial Gaming. So,
and again, just for the record, this was the one that Doki wanted. Doki wanted a matchup of established organizations who have been known in the ZGG scene for a long time.
Who are they playing?
Imperial Gaming. RAR versus Imperial.
Okay. Yeah, Doki did request this. I can confirm.
This is the one thing I will say is this is the only time when you are going to run into RAR in regards to overtly us streaming them. So if you're looking at that, this is your one chance to get a potential peek at them before they do 7 roster changes, or alternatively the playoffs come up, whichever comes first.
Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you guys.
Goodbye.
Great stream.